Hi, I'm Carter.
I'm Carter.
We're at Valencia's Place, and you're watching
Post to post. Go Jets, go! Go Jets, go!
Hello and welcome to Post to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey and all teams. Ooh, nail biter last night.
For the first
Game 7.
minute and a half, it was
It's crazy.
oh man,
You went to bed early. And
I did.
Watched the game this morning.
I watched the entire game this morning. I didn't skip ahead through.
And you weren't spoiled?
I wasn't spoiled. I
Nice.
woke up this morning. I'd only seen the first period. I came downstairs. I did not have social media. I did not. Even when I turned the TV on to start playing back the PVR, it was on the sports channel, and they were interviewing Subban in the dressing room, and I just went la 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 like that, and I hit the start on the PVR. So I knew they interviewed Subban. They're going to interview Subban, win or lose. So
Yeah.
I knew that didn't spoil it. So I watched the whole thing play out in real time.
Were you happy?
I was ecstatic.
Ecstatic.
As much as I picked Nashville to
Yeah.
win the cup, I'm so happy to be wrong in that prediction.
Canadian team, or Canadian, that's your main reason for cheering for Winnipeg. Also, there's players on the team you like.
Absolutely.
It's a good story as well, Winnipeg.
Great story. My brother lives in Manitoba,
There you go.
and even though he and I grew up as Montreal fans, and I think he would still be a Montreal fan if Montreal was doing anything worth cheering about, he's hard behind the Jets
Yeah.
for this playoff run, and I'm with him.
He's lived there for
10 years or more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so it's great.
it was very exciting. It was a weird game because it's a weird series because you saw Winnipeg dominate certain games, and then you saw Nashville dominate certain games defensively, and then Winnipeg will go back and steal a page out of Nashville's book, and then vice versa. It was just kind of back and forth, back and forth. I don't think any team won 2 games in a row in this series, did they?
I didn't look,
I don't
but
remember.
it sounds about right.
But
Whew, man.
it's a series that maybe everyone expected because it's the 2 best teams from the West. It sucks that they have to face off in the second round, but they did. Everyone thought it was going to go 7 games, or assumed it could go, or probably would go 7 games. It did. It was an awesome series. I have no notes. I'm just going straight from the heart. So if you have any notes to start with,
I have notes.
You hit me with your notes, and then I'll tell you my feelings afterwards.
Firstly, I will say that if the playoff structure was ordered differently, 1 to 8,
Yeah.
2 to 7, 3 to 6, 4 to 5, then these matchups would have been different, and maybe the outcome would have been different. We may still have the same 2 teams in the Western Conference final,
Yep.
and I don't know that, and maybe in the East as well. But the way it played out, like you say, the 2 best teams ended up playing each other, Winnipeg and Nashville. Only one can come out of that. Home ice advantage meant nothing in this series.
It was strange.
It was really strange. In fact, home ice advantage might have been a detriment
Yeah.
in this series. Pekka Rinne getting pulled in the first 10 minutes of the game after
Again.
facing only 7 shots, and 2 goals that I didn't think they were all that weak when they went in.
I can't believe they pulled him. It blows my mind. I said that when we were watching the game. I understand that it's 2 goals and 7 shots look bad, but the first goal was complete fluke.
Completely.
Like total fluke.
There's no way that, I still don't think that that had enough room to get in the
it's not
net.
physically possible.
But it was in there, so
Yeah. The second
okay.
goal was a completely defensive lapse by Ellis.
Yeah.
He left Pekka Rinne straight out to dry. I don't blame him. I can't believe they pulled him. I'm not saying that's why they lost the game. It's not. UC Saros came in and he played well. He let in 2 goals as well, but he did play well.
Yeah.
I blame most of the losses that Pekka Rinne was pulled in on the team and not him. Although he did give up some soft goals in that first series. But
Did you see the interview with PK
Nope.
afterwards? He rose strongly to Pekka Rinne's defense.
good.
He said Pekka Rinne was not the reason we lost this game or this series. Pekka Rinne has been our best player when he needed to be. We didn't help him out tonight. He's the anchor of this team. He's the rock that we're built on, and he will be the rock in the future. So he was very, very supportive of Rinne at a time when he probably needed to say all those things.
Definitely.
PK's got a good sense of that. He's also got a good sense of when to dive.
Well, that's the thing. I wanted to talk about this because, like off the ice, he's probably my favorite player in the league.
Absolutely.
On the ice, very frustrating to watch. Even when he played with the Canadians, I was not a fan of some of the stuff that he did. Last night, the penalty that, in my opinion, and it seems like a lot of people, even Nashville fans and the analysts in the game, the color commentary, the people calling the game, the people talking about the game on TV in between the periods, basically everyone thought should have been a penalty on PK
on
for
PK,
embellishment.
Yeah, at least that in addition to or
exactly.
instead of, frankly, because that was not a real cross-check.
And the first penalty as well, the high sticking, I thought that was a pretty weak call.
That was weak.
I'm relieved that Winnipeg won based on the fact that if they lost, we could look back in the game and
completely
talk about the refs.
It would have been botched officiating had Winnipeg not hung on and won that game. They were up 2-0 when Subban went down so easily.
Yeah.
And Subban himself scored on the ensuing power play after not being called for embellishment or diving. And it was 2-1. And there was a glimmer of hope there for Nashville. But as some of the commentators said this morning, and I was listening to Pierre Maguire on the sports channel out of Toronto on 1050 Chum, TSN, he, in his view, and he was between the benches in the game, he said, even though Nashville came back to within a goal, that game was never going to be their game.
Yeah.
Winnipeg was dominant in almost every respect, and the scoreboard eventually reflected that when Winnipeg started filling the net a little bit, and then the empty netter made it 5-1, and that was it.
I thought Winnipeg, the strongest thing they did in that game was their work along the boards in the offensive zone. They were winning all the puck battles. They were protecting the puck so well. They were keeping the puck in and doing line changes while they're in the offensive zone, just because of how many battles they were winning along the boards and how much they were protecting the puck. It was a true, like if you were going to show a video to your players of what to do and how to protect the puck, you would show them many clips from that game of the Winnipeg Jets.
Winnipeg had a cycle going by time, sometimes a one-man cycle.
Yes.
They had a cycle going similar to the kind of cycling Nashville was doing last year in the playoffs, with minutes and minutes of possession, not continuous, but minutes of possession, where they would hang on to the puck for maybe 60 seconds, and when Nashville finally did get the puck back, all they could do was get it out of the zone so they could change.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything left in the tank to go on the rush. Then Winnipeg comes back down and does it again, and they did it over and over again. Nashville had very little sustained pressure in any of the game. They had a few moments, but not much.
And it's weird because the game 6 was the total opposite.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not that Nashville couldn't play that type of game. They're just, I don't know, can't explain it. I don't think anyone can. It's just, for whatever reason.
Whatever reason.
It's a strange thing, but these teams kind of had off nights. Yeah, it's...
And it could have been even worse for Nashville than it was. Excuse me. In the second period with about 7 minutes left, there was a non-call, I thought. Their puck had gone down the ice. It would have been icing. And Emelin was in front of the Winnipeg player who was trying to race him to negate the icing. And Emelin really interfered with him, the very same way that the interference was called previously in the game. Emelin interfered, I think, and that was not called, and it became an icing and came back down the ice. And at that point, I think it was 3-1. Had Nashville been able to take advantage of that icing, post-icing face-off with fresh legs in the ice and scored a goal, that non-call would have been a factor as well. And I think it's good that that didn't become a thing in the game later on.
I know the play you're talking about. Are you sure it was Emelin?
Quite sure.
Because I thought he was scratched, but...
Yeah, no, he was in the game.
I don't remember. Maybe it was game 6 he was scratched.
Yeah, and last night's game actually was the first night I heard them say his name more than once or twice. Like they actually said his name a few times in the game. And I thought, wow, he's actually playing tonight.
I think his contract's up this year. Maybe. I'm pretty sure it is. Do you remember what they traded him for? Or what they traded to get him?
Because he was picked up by Vegas.
Yeah, so they made a trade with Vegas.
Who did they give up?
I think it was a third-round pick.
Really? Wow.
I mean, it's worth the risk, I guess. But I think they're going to retain him. Maybe. I'm not sure. But
he was mostly invisible. And maybe invisible because he was a healthy scratch, and maybe invisible because he just, and we talked about this before, maybe he just didn't have a place.
Maybe.
That's too bad, because I think in Montreal he had a place. I think he was on, he factored into almost every game.
I agree.
In some way, sometimes in the penalty box. But he laid out some punishing checks. He did have one or two good up against the board body checks last night, but not the Emelin I'm used to seeing.
Did you think that PK Subban's play mirrored the fate and play of the Predators And because he had some games where he looked absolutely terrible. I think it was game 3 or game 4. I can't remember. He looked terrible. I think it was game 3. Like he was. That was the game where he took the high stick in the face, I think, or something. I can't. They're all kind of blending together. But
Yeah.
he had a terrible game. He was taking penalties, making terrible plays, and then the next game after that, I thought it was one of the best games I've ever seen him play. He was scoring. He was throwing hits. He was all over the place. He was probably the reason that they won that game. And then the next game kind of went back to he kind of had the same mirrored of the Predators. I wonder if his emotions and his play had an effect on the other players in some of those
Maybe
games.
so, and maybe it's a case of him being so important to the Predators, being such a big piece of their structure, that when he's not at his best, the others on the team can't make up for it. And really, a really good team will be able to substitute other talent for someone who's having a bad night.
Right.
And I thought Subban was okay last night. He played amazing minutes. He was
I thought
I
he had a pretty strong game last night.
Yeah, I thought he did too. And he got that goal. He got them back in it. He was a source of energy on the bench. But PK does those very dramatic things. Like he's turning and he's skating and he's always conscious of what he looks like.
Yeah, I would think that's a fair assessment.
He knows everybody's watching him, and he jazzes it up a little bit.
And that's part of why I like him.
Me
in a
too.
Way. I love
like
his personality.
That. He's so flamboyant, and he's a really, really wonderful human being.
Yeah.
And I would love to have him back on the team that I cheer for, with the risk that comes with. But I'd like to have that.
Well, that's what you get with PK. He's a liability, but on the opposite side of the coin, what he gives you offensively is almost unmatched in the NHL, other than a few certain players. So.
Nashville had 3 power plays before Winnipeg had 1, the first one. And that's when Johansson got caught for the slash about halfway through the third.
Right.
And really, that was probably, I'm not saying it was an even up call. It was a pretty obvious slash. The stick came down on the other stick and fell out of his hand.
Yeah, fell out.
It didn't break the stick, but it knocked it out of his hands. Pretty hard not to have to call that. But up till that point, I thought that, we had a few videos ago, we talked about answering questions as to whether the NHL is rigged and all this kind of stuff. And I've said no, and I still don't think it is, but you start to question things when you saw those weird calls. Yeah. I still don't think it's rigged. I just think the officiating was subpar, not playoff caliber officiating last night. And I hope that doesn't repeat later on. That
wasn't a trend in this series. That was a very Game 7 specific. I thought the reffing in that series as a whole was very good the rest of the series.
Yeah. Paul Stastny has 5 game-winning goals.
No.
5 game-winning goals. And Mark Scheifele has 7 goals on the road.
Wow.
So I think that's... Winnipeg goes into Nashville with those kinds of players that bring it when they have to bring it. That's incredible.
If you look at Vegas, you talk about Conn Smythe, what's a name that comes to mind? For me, it's Fleury. Has to be Fleury.
Is Vegas? No question.
If you look at Winnipeg, who would you pick off Winnipeg to be a Conn Smythe candidate?
I think there's a few candidates.
I think there is. I think I'd probably choose Scheifele.
I would agree with Scheifele.
He's had an all-around consistent game, I felt, in the playoffs, more than anyone else, even though Stastny's been pretty clutch. I would choose Scheifele.
I think I would too. Others have time. There's still 2 series left to go if Winnipeg goes all the way. So guys like Ehlers and Laine can step up and maybe take over or help out with that, because so far lots of effort just hasn't happened. So they're doing a lot of the right things. They just haven't had that puck luck yet, and that may start happening for them.
We've been talking about so much hockey recently.
Yeah.
We're only halfway through the playoffs.
It's unbelievable.
It's
and
mind-blowing.
Think of how tiring it must be for the players.
Oh, yes.
They've gone through this odyssey of 2 whole series, and in the case of, the Winnipeg-Nashville series, right to Game 7. Thank God not deep into overtime in Game 7, like some Game 7s have gone in the past. But they've gone through all that, and then realize they're only halfway there.
Yeah.
They need 16 wins to get the Stanley Cup. They've only got 8, and they don't even have time to rest because today was a media day.
Yeah, I watched their live stream.
Did you?
Yeah.
How was it?
They kind of made a joke. I guess Blake Wheeler last night said that he was going to sleep all day today. And he was at the press conference, and they asked him, "Well, I thought you were going to sleep all day today. What what made you get up or whatever. And he said, well, I'll get up. I was a little groggy and stuff, but he's having fun with it. So
And
they seem pretty relaxed, and
great.
they know what's ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
They are very conscious of Vegas and not underestimating them, and talking about how Vegas is a new team, but the players on the team aren't new.
Right.
These players have been around the league and stuff, so it's not a team not to be underestimated. And I spoke a little bit, obviously, about the series against Nashville as well. And they paid a lot of respect to a lot of players on the team. So
as they should.
yeah,
If you look at any team in the league, their main lines, like first, second, third line, maybe first two defensive pairings, last year versus this year, there's probably not one team in the league that has a constant roster from last year to this year. That would include Winnipeg, it would include Nashville, it would include Tampa and Washington. So when you look at Vegas, these new guys never played together before. Every team has guys who haven't played together before this year.
yeah, there'll be lines that are similar and stuff.
Sure.
Like he's played with multiple people throughout his career.
That's right.
Or Armstrong, Kunitz, Gensel, Sherry. Like the list goes on and on of the people that he's played with.
And Vegas, they have every bit as much cohesiveness, I think, in their dressing room after this year as any other team does. And I think the fact that they're new is no longer a thing. And I think now, maybe the last two series, possibly, but now not, Vegas will not be underestimated by any opponent from now on through the playoffs. Winnipeg will not underestimate Vegas. I'm sure they'd rather play Vegas than San Jose, and they'd rather play Vegas than Anaheim, or maybe even LA. But they're not going to underestimate Vegas, and they shouldn't.
I agree.
Vegas, I think, will... I do think we're going to have our video...
You're getting a little off top. You're getting pretty Vegas heavy here in this video, the series recap.
Well, what Winnipeg needs to do, whenever, is have the lead after the second period. Because when they do, they can shut things down.
I think they're 8-0 when having the lead at.
They're 8-0.
Yeah.
They're 40... In the regular season, they were 42-1-1 with a second period lead. And they're 8-0 now in these playoffs.
Regular season statistics like that don't really mean anything, but when you can replicate that in the first two series, it's a pretty constant.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing to note. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So that's, we'll talk about that tomorrow in tomorrow's video to tee up the series. But good grief.
When you were talking about cohesiveness and as far as lineup, Nashville has brought in Turris.
Yep.
Fisher came back. Hartnell. Do you think that these changes that were supposed to be for the better actually hurt them? Because Turris, I felt, was pretty invisible this entire playoffs.
I did too. Who are they replacing? Who's not there?
Oh, and Benito also came in. Who's not there? I can't remember.
Like these names
James
are...
Neal.
James Neal, okay. These names are mostly upgrade names, I would think. They're but it's all about chemical reaction too, isn't it? It's not just the raw talent or the individual stats. It's how the players communicate, how they anticipate where each other is going to be. So much of the game is that voodoo stuff that some players have and some don't. Just a fantastic series. And I was really hoping, when the playoffs began, I was hoping Nashville will go on a run and finish what they started last year.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen this time. They have nothing to be ashamed of, and they have a very solid team next year as well.
I was just about to ask you that. Where do you see Nashville next year? I could see them exact same spot as this year, probably near the top of the league, contending for a cup. They're going to win a cup in the next 5 years, probably, with the lineup they have, the young talent moving forward. It's a team that's going to be competitive for the cup, a contender for the next 5 years at least, in my opinion.
They do have to address between the pipes in some way.
Yeah, need a little bit more consistency.
It may be, Rene is 35. Saros is in his early 20s, I think. This may be the time to pass the torch. Maybe Rene sticks around for the remainder of his contract as the mentor, the backup to Saros, because I do think that they're friendly.
I don't think they're definitely friendly. They're both from Finland.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think that Saros is a very good goalie, but he gets down so low. So when you compare the size, he's small compared to Pekka Rinne. But when he gets down in the butterfly, instead of sitting on his knees and making himself big, if you'll notice, you can watch next to your notice, he sits down on his butt. So his gut is like underneath his pads. He gets so low. And I think that has caught him throughout the season a couple times. People shoot high on him. And Winnipeg wasn't last night when he went in the net. They weren't shooting high. And they weren't even shooting that much. Usually when a backup goalie comes in, you want to pepper him. Yeah. And, but anyways, I thought that was a missed opportunity by Winnipeg last night, that they were being a little bit too cute with the puck in the offensive zone and not taking enough shots.
He did look quite shut down for the first
He played well.
Period and a half.
Played well when they did get shots.
Yeah. But all in all, fantastic game. I thought the handshake line at the end was good, classy. Paul Maurice and Laviolette, they had a nice moment, I think. These are guys that have a lot of respect for each other.
Yeah.
They're both in the running for the Jack Adams, aren't they? Both of them?
Doesn't matter.
Well, no, I guess it doesn't.
I mean, if Gerard Gallant doesn't win the Jack Adams, then the league's rigged.
Yeah, there's something seriously wrong, yeah. But it was good. Not a storybook ending for Nashville, but it was for Winnipeg. Those fans must be so excited to have this third round and facing them. It's been a long, long time since they've had something to cheer about. And here they are. And it's just great. And like Paul Maurice said, and maybe I'm just going to take back what I just said. Paul Maurice said after the last series, when they asked him, how do you think it is now for the fans of Winnipeg after being through such torture? Right. And he said, well, that wasn't torture, because they love hockey more than they love the team. And hockey was good here. Even when the team wasn't winning, they loved the hockey, and the hockey was good. It's all about the hockey. And, man, I still think that's a fantastic quote. It is right. Yeah.
That's right. Winnipeg has obviously not had a lot of success other than this year. But that place has been packed since they came back. So it doesn't feel like that long ago, but I guess it kind of is. It was, I don't even remember what year it was now. Was it 2013 or something like that?
2011.
2011?
2011.
See, mentally, it doesn't make sense to me.
You know who their first home game was against?
Montreal.
Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. Crazy. But very excited for Winnipeg. I will be seeing them in person less than a week from now. I'm going to Vegas. Obviously, you guys probably know if you've seen the other videos. I want Winnipeg to win because I like Winnipeg. I predicted that Winnipeg would be the next Stanley Cup champions as a Canadian team. I predicted that at the beginning of last year when they sucked. So as far as prediction goes, I want them to go on and win the cup to make myself look good.
Speaking of making yourself look good, what's with this garb?
What do you mean? What?
Why are you wearing the stuff from
the losing team?
Yeah.
Because I like Nashville.
Okay.
Look, this is beautiful.
Well, it is.
I'm showing respect.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's just thought I'd check on that.
Yeah, I'm showing respect.
I just want to make sure you realized who won last night.
Oh, I know. I'm paying respect. And the funeral of Nashville, I want to wear
very good
colors. Yeah.
Well, they deserve respect. They earned it.
Yeah, I like Nashville.
I do too.
I like Winnipeg. I like Vegas. Very excited to go down there and watch Winnipeg in person. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you'd like to watch that journey, we'll be vlogging every single day. You can watch that on More Post to Post, our second channel. Please go subscribe. Thanks for watching this video. Appreciate it. Hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to this channel if you're new. And we'll see you in the next one. Adios.